Every 50 years, God commanded Israel to hit the reset button on the economy. All land returned to its original family, every debt canceled, every indentured servant freed, no exceptions, no buyouts, no grandfathering. The wealthiest landowner in Israel could accumulate for 49 years, and on year 50, the land went back. This is not a fringe text. It is 4 chapters of Leviticus and one of the most detailed economic policies in the ancient world. Here's what nobody tells you. There is no evidence it was ever implemented, not once. The policy that could have prevented every generational wealth gap in the Old Testament, the policy Jesus may have cited at the beginning of his public ministry, the policy economists and theologians have argued about for centuries, may have been a command Israel received and decided to ignore. What it means for your debt, your family's wealth, and the financial gaps that still define American households today, that is what this video is about. Leviticus 25. The text lays it out with economic precision. Every 7th year, the land rests. Debts between Israelites canceled. Every 50th year, the Jubilee. The shofar blows on the Day of Atonement. And then something unprecedented happens. Land could not be permanently sold. What looked like a real estate transaction was a long-term lease. You were buying the number of harvests remaining until the next Jubilee. The closer to the Jubilee, the lower the price. On the Jubilee year, the land went back to the original family, unconditionally. Indentured servants, Israelites who had sold themselves into service to pay debt, were freed completely. The theological logic is explicit in Leviticus 25:23. The land must not be sold permanently, because the land is mine, and you reside in my land as foreigners and strangers. The land belongs to God. The Israelites are stewards, not owners. The Jubilee is not redistribution. It is a periodic reminder that the distribution was never theirs to permanently alter in the first place. This is stewardship theology applied at the national level, enforced every 50 years by divine command. The mechanism is specifically designed to prevent what economists call wealth concentration, the tendency of capital, left undisturbed, to accumulate toward fewer and fewer holders. The Jubilee is the interrupt, the circuit breaker built into the system. The original land allotments from Joshua were distributed by tribe and by family. Every Jubilee was a return to that original distribution, an acknowledgement that God's initial allocation was the baseline, and human accumulation since then was temporary. Here is the implication that almost nobody discusses. The generational wealth gap in America is, in significant part, a story of land and property accumulation compounded across generations without interruption. The families that owned land in 1776 and 1876 have, in many cases, passed that accumulated value forward. The families whose land was taken, by force, by law, by economic pressure, have not. The Jubilee was designed for exactly this, not as charity, as architecture, as a built-in structural reset that would have prevented the compounding of historical dispossession across generations. Whether that application extends to modern America is a theological and political question this video is not going to answer. What the text says is clear. God built a correction mechanism into the system. The mechanism was built for a reason. Scholars searching the Old Testament for evidence of a Jubilee being enacted have found almost nothing. The sabbatical year has some evidence. Nehemiah 10:31 refers to it. But the full Jubilee, the historical record, is largely silent. Nehemiah 5:1-13 is the closest. The people of Jerusalem are in economic crisis. Wealthy Israelites have taken the land of poor neighbors as collateral on loans. Children are being sold into servitude. Nehemiah confronts the creditors. What you are doing is not right. Should you not walk in the fear of our God?
He convenes an assembly, shames the creditors publicly. They agree, under the pressure of his moral authority, to return the fields, the vineyards, the houses, and to cancel the interest charged. This is not the Jubilee. This is one man forcing a partial reset in one city under crisis conditions. The system Leviticus designed would not have required Nehemiah, because it would have automatically corrected the accumulation every 50 years. The rabbinical tradition holds that the Jubilee became inoperative when the northern tribes were exiled, because the law required all 12 tribes to be present, a legal technicality that conveniently allowed land to keep accumulating. God gave the instruction. Israel found a way to not implement it. Jesus stands up in the synagogue in Nazareth, Luke 4:16-21, and reads from Isaiah 61. "The Spirit of the Lord is on me, to proclaim good news to the poor, to set the oppressed free, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor." The year of the Lord's favor. Scholars, including John Howard Yoder, have argued this is a direct Jubilee reference. The phrase in Isaiah 61 is widely understood as Jubilee language. Jesus rolls up the scroll, sits down, and says, "Today this scripture is fulfilled in your hearing." Whether this is a literal Jubilee proclamation or spiritual fulfillment, theologians have debated for centuries. What is clear, Jesus chose this text at this moment to announce what he came to do, and the text he chose was the Jubilee text. Israel was given the Jubilee as national policy and did not implement it. Jesus arrives and announces it as personal reality. The question for the household is what follows from that.
The National Jubilee was never implemented. The Household Jubilee is available right now. 3 components: land restoration, debt cancellation, freedom from servitude. Land restoration translates to inheritance architecture. The Jubilee was designed to prevent generational disinheritance. The EP15 framework, the EP21 teaching, the EP29 investment accounts are all this, structures that prevent accumulated wealth from dissipating in a generation. Debt cancellation within relationships. The Jubilee applied to debts between community members, personal debt, not institutional. The household that has lent money to family or friends holds a Jubilee question. What would it mean to cancel it? Not as financial advice, as a theological question about what the text asks of those who have the capacity to release. Freedom from financial servitude. The Jubilee freed people who had sold themselves into service to survive crisis. The household eliminating consumer debt, building reserves, running the automated system, is pursuing the individual equivalent. Freedom from owing your labor to your obligations before you can direct it toward your calling. The Jubilee was never implemented at the national level. It was apparently always inconvenient for the people with accumulated land to actually do it. The household does not have to wait for the policy to practice the principle. The action from this episode is not a financial transaction. It is a question. Is there a financial relationship in your life where you hold power over someone who cannot repay you? A loan to a family member, a debt owed by someone in your community, an obligation you have the capacity to release. Leviticus 25:35. If any of your fellow Israelites become poor and are unable to support themselves among you, help them as you would a foreigner and stranger, so they can continue to live among you. The Jubilee was not designed to make the wealthy poorer. It was designed to prevent poverty from becoming permanent. The household cannot unilaterally implement a national economic reset. It can implement a relational one. One relationship, one debt, one question about what the Jubilee would ask of you in that specific situation. The national policy was ignored for centuries. The relational practice is available today. What would it cost you to implement it? There's a verse in the New Testament that almost nobody applies to money. It is not in the Gospels, not in Paul's letters. It is a single verse describing what the early church actually did with their financial lives, a practice so radical that modern Christianity has almost entirely abandoned it.
And yet the practice produced something no budgeting system, no death snowball, and no compound interest curve can replicate. That is the next video. It is queued up right now.